Hi everyone, we're going to get started. If you guys don't mind grabbing a chair, please. We have some more time networking after the pitches, so if you guys can just grab a chair and we'll get started right away. Thanks for coming, guys. My name is Johan Borch. I'm the co-founder, or actually the founder of the TechMap, and I've been doing this for a long time. I was a co-founder at one point, and now I'm the founder of it. So I kind of relate to what you guys are doing here and getting to that point as well, connecting with the individual and the developer you might be looking for, or investor as well. So we started this back in 2010, and it's been going on for 7 years now, I guess. But it's just slowly growing and growing, and we're to the point that actually I think I'm going to stop doing it next year. I'll go over that a little bit. You know, so far it's been me, my wife, and then some volunteers that we have, Jonathan and Moby. And basically, it's just been going for a long time this way, and we're looking to do other expansions in different cities, so we cannot do it if we stay in Austin. So the only way to do that is to move over there. So if anybody wants to volunteer, and I'll be sending an email out to take over this event. Let me know, and we can actually talk about it. So that's why I put looking for someone to take over the co-founder meetup here in Austin. Next thing is today is pretty much mingling. You guys did that already. Have some food and drinks. Right now is the announcements, and of course we're gonna have the keynote speaker talk, and then we'll have some pitches and more mingling. I think we have 3 companies pitching today. We have to get out of here by 9 p.m. and you can go downstairs and drink some more and at the bar. The red dots, usually, what that means, you're a developer, and then you're gonna have entrepreneurs who's gonna go attack you and try to get you to work for his company. So, kind of like a shark bite scenario, guys, so that you guys know. Investors, you're also gonna be looking at, people are gonna attack you for money. So definitely, if you have those 2 colors, just watch out. This is the companies that we, partner up, and we actually are sponsors as well. We have Capital Factory providing the space, of course. We're live casting this event. And then we have Golden Art Media. Usually they record for us, but they had previous engagements that couldn't make it today. But we're gonna be live casting it, so that should work for us too. Texas Capital Real Estate is one of my companies that actually invest in real estate, and that's really what makes me do what I do here, give me time to actually do it. Your Way is one of my wife's nonprofit. She helps me, so of course I gotta put her here. Fireshat is something that Moby does. He's also a pitching coach, so you should talk to him about that. And then we have a company that does marketing for us, like the shirts and stuff like that. This is how we started. TechMap was first started here as a co-founder, where we have companies pitching individuals. At one point we had like 12 people pitching, and it was kind of chaotic at Microsoft. And then we expanded because we used a Meetup. But then Meetup had some things that we couldn't do, so we created the TechMap. And that's how we started with the map itself. And you can see the map has the companies are investing, co-working spaces. So we're trying to expand to different cities. So far, Austin is overpopulated, so we're trying to make sure we collect those dots in different cities as well. This is how the website kind of looks. Your profile, able to connect with others online. We're to the point that we're expanding to other organizers to run events for us. So we have a list of other events, and we're kind of like a mixer between LinkedIn and Meetup and Dash Eventbrite, because we kind of took all those little plugs of those things they do, and we kind of adapted it to our site and make it better for organizers and for people to connect with others. So that's what we're kind of doing. And as you can see, Meetup, to my side, you see people put no pictures or first name and initials or whatever, Q. We actually kick you out of our website. we disable your account because we want to make sure you connect with individuals, that you can see who they are, their full name, and what their background is. We're not trying to recreate LinkedIn, but we're trying to make sure that you have a quality individual that you're going to connect with, not somebody with no picture. Oh, I don't know who that is. But verified membership is something that we've been doing for a while, but we're going to expand that to actually next year. Since we're not going to do this event, we're going to expand it to other people do events to manage those memberships through our platform. This is the group scenario. So we're able to hack Meetup and also Eventbrite. So we're actually able to connect our APIs into our platform. So we're able to pull all those events and push it into their platform. So we're kind of like a center of all those things, where we want to make sure that people kind of know what's going on. So we're able to do that with our platform. So we're expanding that for other groups to do the same thing with our platform. As you can see, you have Meetup. Most of those are, we took them out from Meetup, and we could take more. But so far, this is what we started, and we started beta testing. At this point, we're looking to grow that so those individuals that have groups can use our platform to actually grow their groups in our platform. Then we have the job list, which something Meetup doesn't have, of course. Neither does Eventbrite, because we want to make sure you kind of go to one place and find, hey, I'm a co-founder and I'm looking for a developer because we're growing. We have $1 million raise money, and we're looking to hire individuals. So you can check that out. It's free to upload a job post as well. And today's event, we have the keynote speakers. It's 20 minutes and then 5 minutes Q&A. I'm going to open it up for you guys, and then we have pitches. We have 3 companies pitching, and then I'll have 2 people, if they want to pitch up here, kind of mention what you guys are doing, and they'll have 2 minutes to pitch. But the people that actually did pay will have 5 minutes and a presentation deck. There you go. This is what you get. So at this point, I want to bring up Sam Decker, if you don't mind, give me a hand. He's actually founded several companies, and he a style that is, I guess, questions and open it up to you guys as well. So I'll let him start with kind of saying what a little bit about his story, what he got started, and this is on. You have to press the button at the bottom. Hold it. Turn screen.
Got it.
Got it? Okay.
Good.
So, if you don't mind, just sharing a little bit of what got you to be co-founding all these other companies, and then how, how's it been on the way to get there? And
Well, yeah, just a 5-minute version or less of my story. I started in the Bay Area with several startups doing marketing and product development. After all those startups failed, Dell actually brought me here in '99. So that made the move to Austin easy. It was a sleepy town, and from a startup perspective, and I was stuck up in Round Rock. I was running Dell's website, among other things. So I was there for about 7 years, and after I sort of ran out of entrepreneurial things to do at Dell, and I had been networking in Austin a little more, I met Austin Ventures, met Brett Hurt. He was thinking of this startup to do reviews, and I joined him to start Bazaarvoice in 2005. So we launched the company. There's 5 of us at the time, and in about 5 years we had 500 clients, 50 million, and we're about to go public. So I wrote the S1, I left, and then I started Mass Relevance, which was a social software company. And what we did there was we took social content from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and published it out into TV shows and websites, and sort of took social out of social and published it out and had this curation engine. And we grew that to about 150 people in about 3 years. It was a SaaS company, and we merged it in with Spreadfast. We were about the same size, but I'm the one that, I was the only one without a job after that merger. Let Rod run the company. I think I'm better at sort of that 0 to 150 people stage anyway. So I stepped away. I was on the board, joined some other boards. Along the way, Mass Relevance, I co-founded Clearhead. So given my background running Dell.com and retail and analytics, I was also on the board of this company called Monetate, which was doing A/B split testing. Like, more people have heard of Optimizely. Oh, yeah. So there's all this software coming out. And so I was in marketing technology and software, and it's just exploding, all these SaaS marketing technology firms. And I was thinking back to when I was an operator operating Dell.com, and I look at the software and I said, if I was using this, I could print money. And yet, being on the board of Monetate, I saw people weren't using it. So I met a guy who a lot of people come from New York or LA, and I meet them, and he was running Warner Music Digital, and we just sort of riffed on the idea that brands needed help doing data-driven design, testing, experimentation, test and learn, and all those things. So we created the first agency around that. So over 5 years, we built that to 80 people, and in July sold that to Accenture. So I was chairman of that. Maddie was running it, but I was there along, and then really dove in the last 2 years. Since after I merged Spreadfast, I was bored, dabbling and having cups of coffee, and I think that's when I learned a lot about myself. If you go through this and go through building companies, I think if you enjoy doing that, what you enjoy is building. And so then when you start to come to the other side and investing and advising and all these things, it becomes unfulfilling because you're not sort of that input-output's not happening. You're not building something. So I wanted to step back in, at least into a company I had a part in starting, and stepped into Clearhead. So that's the most recent thing that I was doing, and now we're just sort of working through the integration. So along the way, I've been on several boards, advised. I was co-founder of Capital Factory. It was nothing like this. It was on this floor, but it was Josh's old company. We used a conference room, and we would bring, we'd pick about 5 companies every summer, and we'd mentor them for the summer, and then we'd produce a demo day. And so the first 3 years, I was actively involved until I got busy with Mass Relevance, and then, of course, after I leave, Capital Factory takes off on Josh's leadership, and it's incredible. So, so I've been around a lot of startups, seen a lot of different business ideas. My head is usually half product development, sort of what is the product and what's the value prop, and half go to market, sales, marketing, that kind of thing. So a lot of those years at Bazaar Voice and Mass Relevance was enterprise B2B, being on the road, selling enterprise, sort of putting my hat on when I was at Dell, being a buyer, and going the other way and selling marketing technology to CMOs and below. So that's that's a short summary, and sort of raised money along the way with Mass Relevance, and was part of Brett as he was raising money. So know a little bit about that. There are people that know more about raising money than I do, but I think where my head usually goes is, okay, if you have an idea, what is the product actually doing, and someone willing to pay for it? What's the go-to-market strategy? What's the sequence of events you take as you start to get money and people? I think I'm pretty good at that. So that's my 5-minute story. You might have some questions. The way a group this size, they asked me to keynote speak. I have no slides. I'm not going to bring up slides here. And so really, how many here are starting their own company or have started their own company? Okay. And how many people want to? Okay. And so as you're thinking about either you're in a startup or you're starting a company, you're at different stages, and certain challenges come up, and that's what I want to hear, and that's what I want to talk about and share any relevant stories that I have related to your challenges. I think if I was in your shoes, that's what I want on that side. So I would love for this to be super open and have a lot of Q&A and share any of the detailed experiences throughout any of these companies. Be glad to.
Well, I must say that we probably relate to a lot of the stuff. I mean, I'm also coming from Dell, and I got kind of tired of making Dell a lot of money. But started my own stuff. Amazingly, I was making more money doing real estate than I was in Dell, yeah. So, you know, a couple of questions I guess that, you know, I guess entrepreneurs want to know is, you know, how do you develop that culture to start the, you know, when you guys started with Bazaar Boys and Brad, like the people you wanted to hire and part of your team and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I think you learn a lot. There's a lot of talk about culture and a lot of the amenities and things you do. It's not about that. It's really about the feeling of working with the people and what that creates in terms of the behaviors and reactions that happen inside the company. That's what you feel like when you walk into a company and start working. So a lot of it has to do with the founders, the leaders, and I don't just mean the CEO, I mean the most visible leaders. So if you're starting a company or you're in a company, who is the most visible leader that are creating the reactions inside the company? I've come from a lot of good and bad cultures. You were at Dell. Dell had a great execution culture and finance culture. It did not have a creative culture. It did not have a celebratory culture. And there's lots of ways to win, and Dell won in many ways, but it also lost in many ways. And so, but it didn't reflect me. And so when I started companies and was a visible leader, it reflected my values and sort of the way I wanted to interact with people. And so at the core, when you're starting a company, that is it. It is those first people, it is the leadership, and it is a lot to do with the people you hire behind those people. And then the outputs of that are the things you do, the food and things like that are really amenities to it. But if I were to give one piece of advice, it's hire smart. Hire the leaders in a very smart way that have shared values. When we built Mass Relevance, what we did is we had our values stated, me and my two co-founders, and then we put them away. We started hiring people, and then I hired 3 executives all at once. And then I waited about 6 months, and then I surveyed all the employees and said, describe our culture. And fortunately, the words that they used to describe our culture matched the values that me and my 2 co-founders had started. It was a test to see how consistent we had built the company over a period of a year and a half. And then that output was our values. We didn't actually write the values and reinforce them until we were probably 50 people. And so that then became a system to reinforce as we kept hiring more and more people, and the hiring became further away from the executives. Now we had a reinforcing structure, but it was at the core organic, based on the people that we hired and seeing that we could keep that consistency.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that brings back to the whole scenario with what's a successful CEO. That was, I guess, your leadership that actually got those people to give the same feedback that you guys were gathering. So to that point, as a lot of people here trying to start companies here, what will be the way you were able to pitch those people to be able for them to actually say, I believe in this culture and I'm gonna eat it and breathe it like there's no tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, it goes beyond culture. So one of the things that became important is what is really the purpose of the company. I think that's actually even more important now than it used to be for employees. And so actually stating a higher level purpose, higher level vision of which the objectives and goals and strategies all hang off of, and having that repeated became very important for new hires in building the company. But it also became sort of a North Star as we started to go beyond our first product. If you have an idea for a startup right now, you're starting a company, there's no doubt that that will not be your endpoint. You will build other products, you go into other markets, and so what is that northern light throughout all of that? What's the larger purpose and vision that you always hang on to? So we developed that, and I remember at Bazaar Voice, it was, we eventually got there after 3 years, and it was, sort of, build a better world, one authentic conversation at a time, because it was all about user-generated content. So what we're doing is getting people to share their voice, and that makes the world a better place because they're better products, because brands listen, because people can share that. So that got people excited about what we were doing, and then a lot of the things we did would always come back to that. In terms of being a CEO, I guess I waited a while for myself to jump into that role. I think I always wanted to be really good at what I did before I did it. Now, everything I did I'd never done before, but it was always one or two things. Like I hadn't raised money, like going into Bazaar Voice as CMO, I hadn't led PR. And so that was new. When I started as CEO, I hadn't raised money by myself. Now, young entrepreneurs are doing all of it all at once without having those experiences, and a lot of confidence is behind that. The challenges, and part of why we started Capital Factory, was there's no way they're experienced at all those things. And so part of being successful, for me, I waited a while until I got a lot of those experiences, but for successful CEOs, like one of our first companies was Sparefoot across the street, one of the more successful Capital Factory companies, and what I'd say made Chuck and Mario successful was an innate ability to be confident, but also listen, and to be able to synthesize that feedback and execute against it. I mean, over the years I've given a lot of feedback, and 80% of it is not executed against. I remember I used to speak when I was at Dell, and someone stopped me and said, "Why are you sharing Dell secrets?" I go, "Because I know no one will execute on it. I'm not afraid of sharing secrets." People don't execute on what they hear. And so if you're an early CEO, if you find people that you trust and have gone through the sequences and learned from mistakes, and you're actually executing on what you hear, then I think that's, you can get started earlier than I did. But for me, I think I had this great background of startups, large companies, startups. I was able to see a perspective from the large companies that we used to sell to. There's no way I would have been as successful at Bazaar Voice and Mass Relevance had I not been in the seat of buying marketing technology as a client. So I knew how organizations budgeted, how they made buying decisions, and that flowed directly into how we sold. So that experience, while it took years to get, was invaluable. And so if you have someone on your board or advisor that has that experience, figure out how to execute against it.
So I guess the question would be, what's the typical gaps that you see in startups' ideas, and perhaps the pitches that they do out here to investors or other people and selling their products? I'm sure, I don't know if you were in the role selling Bazaar Voice, or was it Brett selling the company?
Oh, for fundraising?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brett started it, and then we're all involved in subsequent fundraising and sort of making the vision, the pitch, and the products. And so the question was originally?
I guess it was about typical gaps startups have.
Oh, gaps. So I have a lot of cups of coffee, and certainly Capital Factory, a lot of pitches about business ideas and companies, and a lot of the gaps I hear are related to what is the distribution strategy? How are they actually going to get customers to pay, as opposed to, I've got this cool technology, cool idea, it could do this thing. Okay, show me evidence, show me anchors of behavior, show me examples of people doing searches on Google, show me something that shows the demand. You're replacing something that exists for cheaper or better. You are someone who's already buying things related to that. Show me that. Show me how you're going to reach those people and the cost of reaching it. Talk about all of that, not just how in love you are with this cool solution. As it relates to the solution is often a feature or a product. And so they're talking about a feature or a product, not a company. And so what I like to hear in pitches is, here's the company vision, here's what we're going after in a large, and here's our sequence of events or products to get there. There was a company I invested in, and he was a young entrepreneur, and it was because he had thought through sort of their tip of the spear product, which at Bazaar Voice was reviews. I mean, we had reviews, and I launched 7 other products behind it. We had 7 patents. We built social commerce as a topic, but it was reviews. It was software as a service reviews for retail. There's no way it would have gone public on that, let alone the 7 products, let alone in retail, because we expanded to every region, every vertical, and over into brands. So we did not have that vision when we started, but we evolved our way there. This one entrepreneur had the sequence of events. He'd been thinking about the X factors of different types of business models to run on after the subsequent products. And so that became more exciting to me as an investor to say, like, if this doesn't work, he's already thought about something that could be right behind it or pivot or whatever. So, and related to that, sort of thinking about those, 70% of startups pivot. So thinking through sort of investors are risk intolerant. A lot of people think entrepreneurs are supposed to just dive into risk. Actually, you're supposed to remove risk. You have to be a risk remover because that's how investors think. That's how Wall Street works. So if you are thinking about, okay, here's how I can de-risk the product and the go-to-market and the finances and all these things, then investors want to, they get excited. The biggest way they get excited is someone else has already invested ahead of them, and then they follow behind. So I would say that those are a couple things, and one other thing is thinking about the unit economics. Unfortunately, we're in a time now and in a city where there's not as much risk-taking. So Series A investors need a whole lot more than they did 5 years ago. So they need more proof that there is progress. You hear stories about, I need, $1 million in annual recurring revenue before I even sort of look at that. And so if you have evidence to show that you are actually making progress and then you can extrapolate it and do a pro forma P&L and you can show the cost of acquisition is proven, and if I get money, these are the next 3 experiments I'm going to run, and that's going to prove out that we could do this, and we're going to develop this product which will raise our average contract value to this, like that. Or if we hire 5 salespeople, we have 2 and they're hitting quota already, I just need money to hire 5 6 months ahead of schedule. They love that stuff. If it is, I have this idea and we started on the product and I need money to do some more R&D and I have no idea if anyone's going to buy it or what it costs to acquire them or if they're going to stick around, they'll say, come back to Capital Factory and get $100,000. Well, unfortunately, $100,000 is not enough to get you to where they want you. So there's a huge gap, right? And so, the failed pitches I hear are not closing that gap for me to believe. Every investor wants to believe that you will be invested in again after them. All they're searching for is when they put in the money, if they don't have to lead the next one, they need an up round. They need to show on paper you're worth more than when they invested in it, and they ideally want someone else to lead it next time. So they want to believe that your story 1 year from the date they invest is going to be exciting for someone else. And so that's the story you have to tell. And the more evidence you have to that, the easier it is for someone who doesn't know you to invest.
Okay. So I guess the next question about investment, what's the reason why investors decline funding?
Well, the number one reason is that they get all excited, they talk to you, and they want to show forward lean, and then they take a step back and they look around and see who, are other people getting excited. As soon as they hear other people get excited, they lean back in. That's the first thing. So one of my early startups, the president said it's this interesting game of needing funding but not needing it. I need it, no, I don't. So it's interesting that you have to show scarcity even though you really need their funding. So that's the psychology of it all. They don't want to be left out of something exciting. There are people that got funded by Silverton Live Oak in the city that on a deck, on slides. And the reason is because they had successful exit, they had fairy dust on them. I had fairy dust coming off of Bazaar Voice. I'll tell you the quick funding story on Mass Relevance is I had several ideas. I go out to Mike Maples, Floodgate, and I said, I got a few ideas I want to run by you. This is like 5 slides each. It wasn't really official pitch. It's not even as formal as you're going to show here. And I showed a Mass Relevance idea. A couple guys that I knew had made this curation engine, just a small app to filter tweets. And I told him my idea of taking that out to brands and things, and he says, I'll get you a term sheet next week. And remember, I'd never raised money by myself, so this is the one thing I did not feel confident in. And I have a casual conversation, and he's, I'll give you I'll give you a term sheet next week. And then he leads, and then Awesome Ventures comes in behind them, and I can speak because they no longer exist, but John Thornton, the managing partner, calls me. My son's in the back seat. We're going to his basketball practice. I put him on speakerphone, and he's like, Sam, we fucking messed up. We fucking have to get in on this. So I fucking want to invest in you. Like, he was like pushing the whole thing on. Will you let us invest? Will you let us match Floodgate? I'm like, sure, and before they were hemming and hawing, whatever, and I went out to Floodgate because Maples was that kind of investor, and he just trusted me because of Bazaar Voice, like, oh, I got a term sheet. And so now Awesome Ventures is right behind them, and so they matched, and then Awesome Ventures backed in the Series B, and they led the Series B. So the point I'm saying is that there's a level of trust that comes with experience. The more you can get experience around the table. So if you don't have experience, but again, a co-founder or a CTO or someone that has some of that fairy dust that they can believe in. And by the way, I don't believe that is there's a cause and effect of someone being successful and then being successful again. Mark Andreessen is probably the best example of that. He was not successful after Netscape until he started his VC fund. So what I'd say is that there is an opportunity to at least leverage that belief, but the way to actually win could be very different than just having that fairy dust. It does help you get funding. Yes?
While you're on that term sheet, so can you talk a little bit about valuation and metrics? Because I feel like whatever the hot thing is also tends to move the metrics associated with that. Like, where do you anchor your faith or belief on what the valuation should be?
There's a lot of factors to valuation, and the thing going against you is just the Wall Street financial metrics of multiples. It almost works against you when you have unit economics and you can say I have 10 million ARR, and they do the multiples of the current market, and they've come down. The factors that have no logic have to do with the space that you're in, if it's AI or VR or something like that. The management team, the leaders behind it, because it's competition. Essentially, valuation is a function of competition inherently to others that want to fund it. So one company could be valued at 5x of AR and another at 10 simply because of the leadership and the fairy dust that they have on them, and that's the frustrating part. So those are factors. Also, I don't know if it's evaluation as much as it is decision making. I think the best way to raise money and to sort of get people at least to lean forward is to find people, investors that have experience in your space and that have had success in your space because they believe they had something to do with it and they believe they can do it again. And so part of the ability to get someone to agree and valuation is their own confidence in that space. If they don't know it, there are funds, there are VCs that are very heavy in AI, and so they're leaning that way. But then there are funds that have done many things, but happen to have OpenTable as a success. And if you bring something to them that you're the OpenTable of this or that, maybe they're more excited about it. So you might reverse engineer your funding, if nothing else, to get interest in term sheet, but also valuation. So those are the primary factors. I think the other one is growth trajectory. So if you do have progress, funding, the valuation becomes more predictable as you move forward, as you get into higher rounds, of course. I don't think we're talking about that here, but just an observation that as you have more unit economics, the more predictable you can get funding, but also the more grounded your valuation can be. So you get a better understanding with a VC, and you have more to back it up because you can point to others that have, or you can sort of point to the external economics for that.
So going back to the whole negotiation in the car with the kid in the back,
Yeah.
how did they know you had already a term sheet or was coming? I mean, like,
What happened? So Mike Dodd was the one that was, who's at Silverton now, was the one sort of like waiting to, thinking about investing, but he didn't. And then Chris Pacitti was his managing director. And I called Chris and said, hey, just want to let you know, I know you guys are thinking about it, but I got a term sheet from Maples. I want him on the board. I think I'm going to let him. And he said, okay, yeah, we don't typically follow, but congratulations. And then so his boss, John Thornton, called me and said, we got to be in on this deal.
okay, so you did notify them, let them know.
Yeah.
So that gave you a little bit of power to negotiate it, I guess, on that.
The perfect example of the follower mentality. It's a little late.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Also, open
So,
up.
did I hear you say you had 5 ideas on one slide each, or 1 idea and 5 slides?
I say
What you
5.
said?
I had 5 slides on like 3 ideas, I think it
How-
was.
what were the key pieces there? Like, I'm just curious. 'cause
Are the
it
slides?
sounds like it worked for you. I'm wondering if you could share.
So again, I wouldn't say that it was the content
Right, totally, I
that
get
made
it.
that is, but essentially what I said is like, here are the 2 technical co-founders. Here's what it does. Here's Twitter. There's a potential relationship with Twitter, and here's my idea of how to leverage this into a whole new market. So we kind of had this 2-pronged strategy of leaning into what Twitter wanted, which was social TV, getting tweets on TV. And that allowed us an unfair advantage. I'll talk about that too in terms of as a pitch startups, like what is the reason that you should win. So we had that, and then I had my whole brand experience. So it's like Twitter's even thinking about this, but I know user-generated content with brands, and I think I can sell an enterprise deal. So given all those factors, the technology was already there, Twitter was interested in partnership, and I had this vision of the brand side. It was like, okay. I mean, I didn't even need slides.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
I'm the co-founder of a tech startup. We're creating a completely new technology platform and thereby creating kind of a new market. So from your experience, I'm guessing with Bizarre Voice, can you share any insights? For us, strategic partnerships are really important in building applications on our engine and proving the validity and the value of what we have. So these strategic partnerships are hard to A, get, and B, negotiate with when you're kind of a startup. Do you have any insight on what has been successful for you in these partnership relations?
Yeah, there's always we started partnerships like email platforms and some other things, and so we were at a disadvantage not being popular. 5 years later, you know, everyone came to our summit and sponsored it. So you go through this evolution of being known and trying to get their attention to them trying to get yours if you're successful. In the early days, what we were able to talk about is the exciting space. Like a lot of these other partners might not be in a space that is exciting. So the topic of what we were doing, user-generated content, social commerce, etc., got them excited and wanted to talk about it. And by the way, that's a kind of the theme of my career is finding that strong westerly wind that you want to put your sail up against that people want to talk about. This is why, you know, VR, AI, like people want to talk about it and fund it. And so it's a conversation people want to have. So if you have, in positioning of your product, your company, a way to state it that people are interested in being a part of it, then you have something bigger than your company name and something they want to figure out how to leverage or connect with. And then what you got to do is find the partners that are most likely to take a chance. And that's either with an individual, like there were certain partners we had where the individual was a go-getter inside the company and that individual was a champion and wanted to go after it, to companies that seem very partner-friendly. So you sort of reverse engineer that if you can and either try to find that person or find the companies that have already partnered with early stage companies in their history. It's another way to find buyers of new technology. Look for those who are listed in press releases of Series A companies. Find the brands that are innovating and trying new things. Those are the ones to sell to.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about product market fit. It seems in your experience you've taken social tools and turned them into enterprise tools and took that to a new market, so you're kind of forging new ground, right? So can you tell us a story about how maybe a time that you failed to create product market fit, how you knew it, how you either recovered quickly or what you would have done better?
Yeah, so those are the startups in the Bay Area, and that didn't keep me there. And I think that I have this this perspective that many startups are 10 years too early. And this could be the case with VR, could be the case with some AI things. And this was the case with a company called Telepost that I was running product for. And we had a CEO that could raise money like that and spend it like that. We had lobster lunches on the beach and we had zero revenue. You know, these were the days. And we built 5 products in the course of a year. Fast forward 10 years, each of those products was actually a successful company. And so I'll give you an example of one, which was a sort of find me, follow me. You know, you dial the number, and it is what's the Google product that finds you? Yeah, you dial the number and it finds where you are and it dials you. Well, we had that in 1998, I believe it was. And well, we try to do partnerships. We try to use these things and have other partners sell them. And so it was this waterfall approach of, we have an awesome technology, the partner would love to talk about it. They did not have enough momentum behind it to actually push this blue ocean idea out to the market. And so the lesson learned there was this idea of, it's timing, obviously, but it is sort of people can understand it and get it. It is only 30 degrees off from what they're already doing. You know, in coming up, someone told me in coming up with anything new, it has to be 3 times better than what they currently do, and they know it and they feel it and they understand it. So in product market fit, a lot of it is, especially where you start with your product. Like, you may have a large vision. I have a buddy I'm helping, he does restaurant software, and he is like the Neo of restaurants and software. Like, he sees it all, and he's already thinking like 10 steps ahead. I'm like, whoa, whoa, pull back. Where's your tip of the spear? What's going to get people to pay you, to have a relationship with you? And then you walk them through the journey to the promised land that you already see. And so part of what I learned was like, well, if that was the product that should be, 10 years, how do we get people started into something where we can evolve them there? Because typically visionaries are way ahead of the market. And so their product market fit is too early for the amount of resources they have to convince the market that they need that. And so startups that have really advanced stuff, there's no way they have the juice to sort of convince people at the top of the funnel to change their ways and change their behaviors and that sort of thing. So start with something where you're only 20-30% changing behavior or better than what they're currently doing, but they need what it is that they're doing. So that was a big lesson. So product market timing, as I took my last 2 years of Bazaar Voice at Dell and considered startups, the reason I landed at Bazaar Voice was, or this idea that Brett had was, I was a retailer. I saw what Amazon had been doing for 12 years. I was a consumer and got it. And I said, I will sign on, but we're in no rush. Let's validate the market. So he went to shop.org, talked to 40 e-commerce VPs, and they all expressed interest to have a call. And that's when I signed on and joined them, and we started the company. Yeah, one last question.
Your comment about visionaries and all that, I heard this line today, which was, good salesmen don't sell just benefits or features, they sell futures.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I just read that today, so I don't know anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Brett lost to Omniture in the analytics space, a big time, and so that was a pain point for him. And why? Because he was very conservative on sharing product roadmap and features, and Josh James was super ahead. He'd sell things a year ahead as if he had them, and was super aggressive. And so when we built, and I ran the product at Bazaar Voice, we built a vision out for what the journey we were going to take the client on. and gave it the name of social commerce and said, you know, we had competitors that just had reviews, but you want to be with a leader doing social commerce, and here's the next product, and here's our features, and here's where this is all going. And so we shared sort of the promised land of where they're going, but here we said, here's where you're going to start. And we said, this is proven, this has results. Look at Home Depot, look at Walmart, look at Dell, they didn't go wrong, you're behind, it's time to move, and the bowling pins would fall. When you're selling enterprise, you just need to get a couple leaders in the space and the rest will fall. And so why will they go with you? Because they want to be led to the promised land. So it's a sort of an extra added benefit for them to go with you versus competitors. If a competitor's selling the same thing and is cheaper and you're both just selling what you have, then they'll go cheaper. If a competitor's cheaper, and our competitor was free. So we were selling a $100,000 contract to a free competitor. We sold a future, we sold trust, and sort of this new space, they paid money.
So who was that competitor that was free?
Power Reviews, which eventually Bazaar was bought and got sued by the SEC and had to divest, and I was not part of any of that. Fortunately, I had left by that time, and it was not did not have to get on the courtroom stand.
One last question. I think somebody had one in the back.
You touched on it a couple of times around pricing.
Yeah.
You're doing these business-to-business deals, and you've got your early product, and you're coming up with that 20-30% tip of the spear. How do you go about pricing that from a value perspective, or do you sell it at a discount because it's early, or what are your thoughts on pricing at the early stage?
I'd never give software away free. They have no skin in the game, and they don't invest themselves in it, so I never do free trials or anything like that. I also, the lesson learned is you can always charge more than you think. Pricing models are highly dependent on the anchors that they already have. So if you're selling analytics at the time, it was about the number of page views and sort of hits you have against that. So that was their anchor on how they paid for that. So the question on pricing and how you model the pricing is dependent on the space that you're in, what your competitors are doing, what they're used to paying. But the other fact about pricing with enterprise is, and I was in this spot when I ran Dell, is I had a $700,000 budget. I had it broken down into a pie chart. Anything over $100,000 would cause me concern. So, so you might have sort of a sweet spot in terms of the buyer. They have a wallet and they only pull out 20s out of their wallet. And so you need to price something that, you know, is $20 or $40 for them to buy, because otherwise if it's 100, I don't have any Benjamins in my wallet, I'm not gonna, you know, buy your thing. So pricing is highly dependent on the buyer, their anchors of what they bought before, how they spend money, and the metrics by which they have typically bought things, user seats or page views or whatever the anchor is.
Well, at this point, we're going to start the pitches, if you don't mind. You can stay there if you want. I want you to give feedback to the... They're pitching here, or they can pitch in front of you, however you want.
I'll go there.
Okay. So we'll start with Spiral, Janie Kim. By the way, guys, help me give an applause to. He actually did great. I mean, I'm glad he actually was able to make it today. And he's actually sticking around to listen to your pitches and give you guys some feedback. So here's this thing.
Unless you want to speak that by yourself.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Jeannie Kim, and I want to introduce you to Spiral. Can I get the clicker going? Thank you. Alright, so in introducing you to it, I want to ask two questions. First is, how many of you feel that writing is an important skill set? Okay. Now, how many of you feel that you're really confident in writing or you really enjoy writing? Okay, a few less, right? That's generally tends to be the trend. And in wondering like why, right? I want you guys to go back to the first time, or you were in our writing class, right? Not that long ago for some of you, right? So how many of you have ever got an essay back and maybe it has a grade stamped on it, maybe a few squiggles here and there, and you're like, what do I do with this? What do you do with that? No, really, like what do you do with that? Okay, you feel sad, you toss it, some of you, right? But if you actually had an experience, has anybody actually here has had an experience of like revising it with a teacher maybe and then seeing it get better after the first draft? Okay, like 2, right?
So if there were a way that's like actually fun to revise your essay and you feel confident in it, maybe would that have been a little bit better for you, better experience for you? Would you have practiced writing more, maybe? And some of you are like, practice writing? What are you talking about, right? But why wouldn't you practice writing, right? Because we practice sports, we practice instruments, we practice even math drills, so why wouldn't you practice writing? So, unfortunately, that is still the case in the classroom right now. There are a lot of barriers to getting better at writing. But I will tell you this, students definitely do want feedback on their writing, especially because it's not cookie cutter, right? There's no fixed answer, so they want individualized attention. However, teachers are often the bottleneck, and I can tell you that having 108 students in my class and then spending 21 hours grading one essay and giving feedback on it all weekend, and then I give it back to my students and they end up in the trash can, right? It's like, okay, why did I just do that? So they need individual conferencing time, right? So they need even more than the 21 hours. So that's definitely a barrier. And then there are also parents who want affordable writing help or like advising help for their students, oftentimes because they can't help them. Maybe they're immigrant families, they don't speak English. 80% of my parents, like that are students' parents, they didn't speak English. Or maybe it's double income family, they're working, they're not available, right? So there are a bunch of barriers to that. And yet, even at EdTech or EdSurge Technology Conference, right, 2 of them that I went to, this is not addressed at all, right? There are a bunch of companies that do like writing, grammar software, but not really tailoring to individual needs. So this is the vision for Spiral, is to equip every writer with a sense of community as well as direct practical writing feedback that's individualized. This is for the mission of growing generation of writers that are better communicators, who are more thoughtful and empathetic and confident individuals. Because let's face it, right? There are so many people who react before thinking. So this is one solution to make individualized writing feedback available to students. Right now it's not existing. Spiral will be a web platform where K-12 students can engage each other, giving peer feedback, or for paid feedback, engage with a certified teacher to get individualized real-time feedback on their writing. There may be many players, right? K-12 students, player A, like writer A, writer B. Maybe there's Miss Susan, an advisor. And of course the parent, oftentimes the wallet, right? But definitely an important part. So how to process spirals. Maybe Jed, a 4th grader, gets online and he's stuck on his writing homework. And then maybe Hallie happens to be online and she's like, oh, I'll help you out. She also gets credit for getting feedback on her writing. So this is a pay-it-forward system. You help each other, right? And she gives feedback that's recorded. So Jed goes offline, Jed works on it. 2 days later, he's stuck again, he gets back online. Hallie's not there, but somebody else can follow the feedback loop because it's all recorded. So maybe Sam, who happens to be online that day, can help him out, right? The demand for the current U.S. tutoring market, not U.S. education market, but the U.S. tutoring market is $6 billion by many estimates. It's projected to grow to $7 billion by 2020, and that's on the demand side, backed up by dollar signs, right? On the supply side, there are about 180,000 teachers, retired teachers who could be mobilized to be certified advisors, and also 55 million people or students in the K-12 system. So there's definitely supply of teachers and students, and the demand for, there's definitely a market for this. Competitive landscape, like I said, Ginger, maybe you guys have heard of Ginger or Grammarly or even Seesaw. These are journaling apps or websites or grammar editing platform, or sorry, plugins, but there's nothing that really addresses individual writing needs. My background, well, I came into education about 5 years ago. I taught 2 years for KIPP. I was 7th grade reading and writing teacher, and both years my students got first place in Houston for writing star scores and the second for reading. Prior to that, I was equity analyst at a equity long-short fund, and before that I was in accounting and finance valuation firm. So the reason I'm here today is because I'm in search of a tech co-founder. That's not one of the things I've done in my past life. These are the milestones that are ahead to test the process with my current students, and also I'm also plugged into KIPP, so there's a batch of students that I'm working with weekly on giving writing feedback. There's also TFA's friends or ex-colleagues that I can mobilize to be advisors, so that I'm going to be hoping to test both process and hopefully the platform that one of you will help me build. So yeah, I wanted to just leave you with this. Getting better at writing is not just about whipping up an essay. It's about being a better communicator and being a better participant in the world. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, questions?
Feedback?
Yes.
How will you make money?
Yeah, so the peer-to-peer feedback part, that will be for free, like many games, right, like free to play. But if the students were to seek professional help, which are certified teachers, then that would be for pay, and then the website will be getting a fraction of that. Yes.
Do you think you go after like the education system to maybe fund you for the students to use this platform, perhaps?
So that's a question. Yes, the question is, would we go after like school districts, for example? That's certainly a venue. If not for that purpose, then I would definitely engage teachers to funnel at least the students or the foot traffic towards the website, because what this will do is it will take the burden off teachers to have to give feedback to students, even if it's not the same quality of feedback as teachers. At least peer feedback helps students so much, and I know this from my own experience of getting my students to grade their each other's essays. I mean, they put so much time into writing theirs that they don't want to look at theirs twice. But if it's grading somebody else's, they will grade the heck out of it, right? So that's the whole idea of mobilizing. Yes.
What do you anticipate the feedback time would be? With someone asks for feedback and then gets it back, and then will you limit that to make sure they get it back in a timely manner?
So the whole idea is that it's real time. So if you log on, you're matching up with somebody who happens to be online at that time. So, and let's say you logged on, you worked with Sam, and you really liked working with Sam, and then maybe you can like bookmark Sam and then try to find Sam again, but if Sam's not available, then you can talk with somebody else. Over there first.
So how does this work with current things like tutor.com, and you have a lot of tutoring websites, right?
Yeah, so tutor.com, Wyzant.com, those are kind of like matching sites. So they match tutors with 2 T's or students, and then they take a fraction of the cut. I know Wyzant has been working on a platform where they can engage this, but they don't have one that's working yet. They also have started an online tutoring, so which is a little bit more like real time. But this is specific to writing. The reason why, aside from my passion for it, is that like the whole venue of writing is very personal. Like it's a different feel when you show somebody's writing versus when you show somebody your writing versus when you're showing somebody your math homework, right? So like math homework, if somebody tells you you're wrong, you don't feel hurt by that because, I mean maybe, but like you know that there's a right answer and you need to figure out the reasons. If somebody gives you feedback on writing and that's not, like unless it's somebody you can trust, that's hard to do. And with peers, actually, they're more lenient on the type of feedback they get. So that's why the idea came for this. Over here and then this way. There was a question back here, yeah.
Yeah, so for this to be, real time and work as it's happening, you're gonna need a lot of users. I can see people looking for feedback, getting on all the time, but what about the people that are spending their time to give that feedback? How are you planning on getting those users on there?
Right, so the idea is that when you first log on or when you first sign up or register, right, you don't get immediate feedback on yours. In order for you to get feedback, you have to earn the credit to be able to get feedback, and you do that by giving somebody else feedback.
Stack Overflow.
Or yeah, like helping each other. Well, Stack Overflow, I feel like it's a lot.
That's how it works.
Yeah. I'm clear. This is why I need a co-founder who's in tech, right? Yeah. Here.
So going back to an earlier topic in the talk, what is your strongest anchor point in the market, like pricing wise, and then how are you sort of weighing yourself up against that?
So for tutoring, like you mean the tutoring
yeah, so
fee?
you mentioned, yeah, so like what are people willing to pay for, and you mentioned other services like Grammarly, like what are they providing, how do you weigh up against them, what's your...
Yeah, Grammarly is for free, it's my knowledge. It's a Google plugin that you can download and it just fixes your grammar. This is a completely different kind of thing because it's one-on-one, like it requires human eye, right? There's so far no software that can give you, talk about the voice of your writing or like what kind of sensory details you can include in here, right? They don't have that yet. So in terms of pricing, I mean, there needs to be further research, but there's like Wyzant. If you just go on Wyzant and you look at what each two tutors are charging and who has a market, right? There can be that could be a data point. I've tried. Sorry.
One more last question, I guess.
Yes, got there.
So because you're focusing on the peer-to-peer feedback, how would you control for the quality of feedback that you receive?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm working on content not only for self-guided writing steps for a student, even if they can get online, they can interact entirely with the website on their own, but also kind of the tutorial to get on board, like the onboarding tutorial will be really important in giving like good quality feedback versus non-quality feedback, and they're going to be able to grade each other's feedback quality, not just their writing, but also feedback quality. So vote up good feedback givers, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Kim. Is that right? Kim Trance.
Business.
Hi, my name is Catherine Bentley. I'm the co-founder, non-technical co-founder of Kintrans. And we are automating human movement data for the 21st century applications. My founder is Mohammed El-Wazir. He's CEO, CTO. I think he's sleeping. We're both living on 0 hours of sleep. And that's why I found out about the meetup today. So I kind of whipped this together. Sorry about that. All right, so at Kintrans, we have built a full body movement recognition engine so that we can process and analyze movement data that generates value to clinicians to help understand the human body, how it's moving, to some standardized mobility testing. Also, we haven't built this application yet, but there's application in security to look at the movement of populations of people through secure areas. And our promised land is our application for sign language translation. So we automate two-way conversations between deaf signers and hearing speakers by recognizing the full body movements of sign language, and we can recognize any language in the world. So that is actually a commercial product. I'll explain that a little bit. So in the kind of low-hanging fruit, how we are incrementally proving the technology is by automating some practices in the clinical fields. Right now, there is a move in healthcare management to home healthcare. And a lot of things that happen at home healthcare is physical and rehabilitation related, all kinds of mobility testing for fall risk assessment, and ACL rehabilitation is a huge driver of healthcare costs. So these types of things with the Kintrans movement recognition technology, through a mobile app that we're building, you can recognize in real time this data that shows progress from a baseline. And is the joint on the body, anywhere on the body, is it moving properly? Is it making progress over time? So, and so we're looking at evidence-based decision-making for clinicians and also intelligent assistants. We sell an annual license to developers and corporates to license our engine for custom builds. And we also offer our mobile app, and our sign language translation product is an annual license. Both are, we work B2B primarily. So why digital diagnostics? As I said, we're looking at this post-acute care aspect of healthcare and moving that over to home health. There is not actually a solution right now for the mobility testing. All it is, when they test, it's subjective, it's up to the care provider. There's 3 different standard CDC tests, And basically, the timed up and go test is a basic one. You stand up in a chair, you walk forward, you pivot and rotate, you walk back, you sit down. So it's testing all of the movement, gait analysis, joint movement, balance, and all they report back is 14 seconds. Did the test take 14 seconds less or more? And more puts a patient into fall risk category. So what we want to do is change this completely. Put on a mobile app for the care provider to just be able to analyze the movement, automatically populates and feeds back into the physician's notes, and then they have some great evidence for clinical diagnostic and to decide whether or not the care routine and drug protocols are effective. So why sign language? You know, this is the population around the world is only 350 million people. I mean, it's significant to us, but to a lot of people that doesn't sound like a lot. But we're focusing on actually not the deaf themselves, but integrating deaf into our consumer environment and into our workplaces and into our governmental service areas.
5 minutes.
Oh my God, already? Come on.
Yes.
All right, anyway, you get the idea. It's you just stand in front of the camera, sign, voice to text, somebody speaks, speech to text, and we have a signing avatar, turns it into sign language. Okay. We have a great team, but we are looking for machine learning experts, algorithm architects, data scientists, software engineer, animation, project person, agile project manager, and you can email me if you are interested in working on this next level technology.
So these are job positions, alright? Paid job, not co-founding job, right?
No, co-founding.
Okay, so this is stock equity, no salary?
Not right now, but that's, yeah, short-term vision is just jump on board and learn what we're doing, be part of this team, and we are working out those details shortly on that stuff. Yeah, any questions? Yeah.
So I got two unrelated questions. On the post-acute side of things,
Yeah.
are the payers interested in this new development in terms of
Yeah,
being able to collect that data and
exactly. Great question. It just takes much time. So the payers, it's automatically integrated into billing codes. Billing codes already exist. And so what they're using now as a manual intervention, they replace it with an automatic.
Gotcha. And the second question is, have you guys investigated or thought about the ergonomic space?
About what?
The ergonomic space as a potential market, given that these are businesses looking at trying to
Right.
Improve the motion of their employees and
Yeah, no,
avoid those.
we haven't, but that's a good one. Yes.
I have a question. I really like what you are doing, especially like here in Austin. There's a lot of deaf people, and I feel bad. Like they have their camera out, was worked out for 3 years, and I like how they're helping them out. But they always have to place their phone somewhere and do sign language. Like it just looks like it's not natural, and it looks like they have a hard time doing it. Are y'all working in ways like where you really don't have to use a phone? I don't know how you really do it, but like where you're just really controlling like how they do their fingers, how they do their hands. Because like looking into like a camera and placing it somewhere, it's not convenient. It's not like you're getting on a phone call. You want to make it very easy.
Actually, deaf prefer the mobile, and we can't accommodate the mobile right now because we need a 3D depth camera. So there's another way of integrating a 3D depth camera plus a screen connected to the internet, and that's what we use to host the conversation. But they want us to move to mobile. We're just waiting for the technology to upgrade a little bit.
Great.
Anything else? Okay. See that link, contrance.com if you have questions. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have
That's me. Hey everyone, my name's Jetty, and I'm the founder of InCommon. So I'll keep it simple. We offer an app that helps people overcome addiction. So how do we do that? Well, let's start with the problem. And really, there's so many ways you could go about it, but what it all boils down to is, what is the most important and the most difficult challenge that addicts face? Well, it's just asking for help. They have a problem with asking for help. And I feel like most people in this room know somebody who can relate, whether they're full-blown addict or not. But regardless, they don't ask for help until it's too late, most of the time. Well, what if we could catch them before? So the solution that we're working on is Essential Hub, our app that efficiently connects people who need help with people who are willing and able to give help from a trusted peer support community. Now, who better to know the needs and problems of an addict than a fellow addict? I'm getting lots of text right now from the platform, sorry. So really what it boils down to is, can you find help, can you give help, and then there's an overarching community based on emotional support. That's the community that is stronger than addiction. Hang on, sorry, punchline coming later. So that is the main thing. There's a lot of other cool functions. We'll save that for later. And I just wanted to include this funny graphic here because this is kind of the state of addiction right now. Is, we can talk about all this cool technology, but really we all know somebody who's suffering, right? Maybe it's not addiction, maybe it's some other form of mental illness. But that's like the elephant in the room. And there's actually a really big business behind that. Well, what are the numbers, right? So 40 million people, I know you can read this, but 40 million people meet the clinical criteria for drug addiction. And then there's 80 million that are in risky territory. That's a big gray number, right? And we're not even getting into behavioral. I've included this sort of picture up here because we can all kind of relate, but also it's a very telling picture of behavioral addiction, technology, gambling, food, and sex, those sort of things. And now, what does this boil down to? Well, it's a vastly underserved market is the takeaway, right? 1 in 10 people meet the critical criteria for drug addiction. And then of those people, 1 in 10 people who need help ever get treated, right? That's awful, that's a crying shame. Think of all the people, all the blue markets, all the underserved people who are out there. But what about the people who actually do get served? What about the people who do get help? Well, let's take a look at that. Well, it amounts to about a $35 billion industry. It's non-significant, non-trivial. But then how are they serving their clients? Well, let's look at that. 90% relapse rates. That's opioids, but just as high in others, right? So again, very vastly underserved. What's the effects of that? 100 Americans die every day. Again, not behavioral, harder stuff, murkier stuff to track. So punchline coming. So how do we solve that? Well, our app delivers the magic ingredient that, why are we here in Capital Factory, right? What do addicts need more than addiction? Well, it's community, all right? We gathered here because of the tech community, and these people need a recovery community more than anything. And it's that community that's stronger than addiction that will eventually help. Now, I'm burning through time, but we take a very complicated process and we boil it down to, look, do you need help or do you want to give help? And there's so much to navigate that, our users have told us, this is so refreshing. It's so refreshing to just have that right away, just like Uber, but for getting from emotional place A to emotional place B. After that, you get matched up based on mutual interests, shared experiences, shared backgrounds, where you're trying to get to, and trusted peer support. So let's say if you know people, and this is not just for the people who are recovering from addiction themselves, but what about the partners? What about the spouses and the friends and family members who they themselves need help? This allows people to very efficiently build communities that they need through this through this process. All right, so help me. Who's already out there? Long story short, there's been some people who've tried, but they all kind of suffer from either not being able to penetrate deeply enough to the core of the problem, which we have. We've thought through so much of getting help, and we'll say that for another time, but also BetterHelp and other services like that suffer from the same fundamental problem, which is just that one-to-one connection. One person can't be everything to all people and to one person at all times. So we take a crowdsource approach. Okay, but how does it make money, right? Our favorite TV show. Okay, long story short, first we're going to start with freemium subscriptions, so premium accountability features that really help you get the most out of your recovery. But really the money is in the data that we're going to collect from this. I know it's not NSA, it's not anything like that, but it's more so like, look, what is most effective? What are the data trends that are most effective? Where are people going to? What are the best practices across a variety of verticals and industries? And so we can monetize that for mental health providers, for organizations, universities. We're in a very interesting partnership development right now with the DoD. But I'll save that for your Q&A because it's time to AMA. Thanks.
You said you had users.
Yes.
So how many?
A grand total of 111.
To start.
Yes, we do not operate by a viral economic system, so much to my chagrin. But each of those users does trust us with their deepest, darkest secrets, and the value of each user is so much more powerful because of that.
You mentioned the DoD partnership. Is
Yes.
it related to, this is a slightly different twist, but 22 vets commit suicide every day?
I'm very good friends with somebody who's doing work in that exact same space with his platform, and he quotes that every single day. Yeah. So elaborating off of that, we're exploring a potential strategic focus that would allow us to partner with the DoD, do a pilot study, and offer this as a social support solution for veterans coming home from deployment suffering from addiction and PTSD issues.
That's a huge market.
Yes.
So there's a company called Better Transitions that I help out. I would definitely want to bring you to them as well.
Great.
But with like getting data, like these people don't like asking for help, but I'm pretty sure they don't like giving away their secrets. So especially if you partner with the government with the stuff that's came out, how would you combat against that? I'm not bashing your program, I love what you do, but like they don't want to ask for help, but also like give more stuff about them. Like I'd probably recommend like first and last name, location, and like, hey, tap into a local therapist or something.
So let me back up a little bit even more. First, we're not Uncle Sam, so we've got that going for us, which is nice. But besides that, I mean, just having the interests aligned in a certain way and allowing people to, let's say, connect people who they already know kind of have a problem. And entering that sort of trusted space. Yes, it'll be slower than, let's say a Facebook, but I mean, once you have that trust, I mean, you see some really magical success stories, which we're already starting to see.
Do you have any feedback or last question?
Yeah, just to piggy off what he said, you said 1 out of 10 people go to receive help. How are you going to capture that market? Why are they going to ask for help now through your application?
Well, first we're gonna start with people who are serious about their recovery and who are already kind of doing these things in the analog sense, right? We're just converting them to digital. And as we kind of go closer towards that chasm, really the foundational basis of how we work is that we take a very complicated process and then we make it very easy. Literally, again, one tap. And it's really that easy. It's something that we're going to use to just attract people towards our center of gravity.
Okay, so I guess we're done, guys. We have one more thing we want to mention about the event. Appreciate it. That was I don't know if you have any specific feedback you want to give out to people about the event or the pitches. I know that Moby wanted to say something about the pitches. Did you want to take over and say something about it?
No, I can go, Sam.
Yeah, I just had one thought that sort of goes across all. When you have 5 minutes to pitch, assuming you're pitching for investors, there's clearly a deep passion and understanding of the product and the space. But with 5 minutes, you need to fight the urge to go deep into that, all of that passion, because you have to balance that with evidence that you should win. Evidence that that your different way of doing it works, or evidence that people buy this or something like that. So as an investor who doesn't know your space and doesn't get the passion, that is important. You don't want to lose that, but I also need to trust that you can win as a business, not just as a product to solve a problem that you're passionate about.
So I think what you're also describing is tell the story, get to the point within 20, 30 seconds if you can. You know, what the problem you're solving, the solution, the market you're hitting, and how much money you're going to make the investor. That's all they care about in reality. And they can sleep at night too, right? Because otherwise they'll be like, where's my money going? So this is some of the stuff that actually Moe put together, and he does in his pitches. And he,
Do you want me to do something?
I think we're almost up in time. So 8:30. So I want people to network and kind of talk to each other. So at this time, I'll put the music on again, and you have till 9 p.m. and we'll have to get out of here. You're welcome to talk to everybody. Thanks for coming again, guys.
Providing a service, there's a lot of insurance money for it. A lot of customers who are families and that sort of thing. And after years of we have like after right? Like what does that look like? Well,
So
So that's where you see it's an education.
Unless I found a warehouse with 1,000 record players in it.
It's just gonna be hard just to find
They should have found other.
So currently you work on it and you sell it. How many do you sell? Okay. I can't believe people spend that much.
But I have to I bathe them later in the night with my actual and then I upsell them.
You've already got the beginnings on the problem.
Yeah, I upsell them like, well, listen to this, and check out, and it's like, yo,
and your buyers are local. All your buyers are local.
I got something started, I just don't want to
right.
where to go. Right. But there's something, there's
I'm trying to see how, I'm trying to think of like, how can you scale this? I mean, you got a good first step for having really passionate and loyal.
I just feel like I make a great sales funnel. I got a sample size to know, hey.
And you don't ship these, right? Could you? Or?
It's like $500 a month.
Right there. Yeah. Have you had to? Have you done that?
Which shippers cost more?
It's like if they're going to spend $3,000, what's $500 more?
You gotta find that right market.
LA and market for you. Have you sold much now?
Yeah, girl, I honestly just
How's it going?
What are y'all doing?
I'm Jay. My background's hotel.
Your background
is biz dev and hotel work.
Oh, okay.
Sales girls from LA emailed
Yeah, that's you can have something there.
Something's there, I just don't know what.
I've worked on Shopify and stuff, so I'm very familiar with that. Yeah, let's talk. I'd be happy to help.
Otherwise, there's an e-commerce meetup that e-commerce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'll pay you. I can sell it. I don't want to fuck up. You know, just show me what I gotta do. I'll pay you. I don't want to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
Email if you want. That's water.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll check it out.
Just DM me.
Yeah. Works, man.
Nice meeting you. That's water. Awesome. Nice meeting you, sir. How's it going? Steve. I was program.
Any background in e-commerce?
Other than selling
What are you looking for? I got kind of a little something taking traction. Record concerts are big. Trust me, they have to purchase an Amazon and I'm not getting shit. I want either affiliate or otherwise I'm on track.
Gotcha. You're more the nerd side.
Yeah, visual guy, I market, I take pictures and track the eye.
But not necessarily on the product itself. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, our feedback is
I don't have one.
it's kind of like
That's what I use.
the problem with the
I got a good sample size and so I know what I'm converting. Then I go acquire another record player, Instagram, I mean, I have to know the math.
I was looking at like custom cars they were mainly
I was doing almost by just the content. The content's like, oh shit, that's cool. And then they wow, they're like, they're gonna do it, they're trying to sell the cheap crossword. Sell something you
We're about to let people do secure privatized kind of like how you That's a great question. Somebody always comes up with a question. That's a problem that disappears in data at scale. Okay, that's a good assumption, right? But then at scale, we can still program like detectors, much like how Airbnb will. We're able to still see everything in the back end. We're still able to track everything. And so that combined with sort of policing that will help. I mean, really, I would welcome it's good to be able to have it, because then that would be a great thing for say, this is not the place for you, and then demonstrate that very strongly. I've seen that with oh, so you need artificially generated VR? So I'm going to be frank with you. I have a better for my RAM. And at the end of it, I mean, all stories, right, like lead to something where you want that to be on the next stage. So, there's questions, there's answers, or much better fact checkers and cross-referencers than I am a story maker. Well, again, that's something that happens at scale, and right now I can see things that happen. So let's say there's a story that I'm trying to was there was a man when on Friday night he messaged every single one of those shows. And I mean, I didn't really try to so my Friday night was
Hi Don, I lost you. Sorry.
That's attached yesterday as well. Right, the meme that just happened in that Friday night, they're like, you're not such a girl. Like, that's gonna happen.
Nobody cares about your I love you.
No, but I'm sure I I'll tell you that there's about 6 or 7 other, like, so, when I leave the space, it's about execution speed. Right, so, I mean, maybe they're in the economy of that space, but I'm in the economy of my space. Yeah, but I appreciate it. Yeah. There's like an economy for dating, there's an economy for insurance, and there's like insurance is friendly, Right, which is why I was excited about, we're not in the NSA here. Yeah, was there some I've been
They get overlooked all the time. And not just like on the market side, but also like push to build it. Push a business a couple months ago, so 10 grand the first hour. It's just, they're not always going to like run up, you know, a business. They start, they had an idea. So that's why you go into service line and optimize the business line technology.
Thank you so much. I was really, yeah, I was really like, oh yeah, I'm really signed up for this. Okay. Yeah. Oh, really?
know each other. So I specialize in mental space, but trying to get more involved with tech space, like a lot of my
Just like how we jumped out of college.
here, and I want to build more
Keep on talking. It's like my mentor was a kid. He's like, Alex, leave an hour on Wall Street Journal. And he was right.
A lot of truth there.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll see you around. JJ. Yo, are you on LinkedIn? Yes, I am. It's ALIK.
Kill it. Cool idea.
Yeah, especially if he has like concrete ideas about how he can improve it.
That's a great question.
Usually the best idea if you don't know what you're doing.
You're going to help me. Like, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for my next thing. I've met he's the founder of a company called Lightcast, which is kayak for carbon parts and
Tell me about what you do.
Get it? Like booking, like direct booking.
I met a guy that's doing one here in Austin. We can have you actually.
Okay.
Yeah. There's something that's very like about to some million deal, but it's like lots of chat.
What's your name?
Yeah, and so that's my background. I've been wanting to get out of like brick and mortar and do something more startup, different things. I know hotels. I've been doing it for so long. I have no more curiosity left in my brain. I was like a follower. I'm divesting out of my hotel business and investing in networking, going out, thinking of ideas.
People that already have properties.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
If somebody calls you,
yeah, man.
you are always
it's funny because I actually, hotels near Airbnb traditionally have been like competitors. But I recently was like, you can't beat it, join it. So I put my hotel on Airbnb and it's been great ever since. You're like, okay, I love Airbnb now, you know? And actually they charge less commission than like booking and they have a better website. Experiential, you know? It's not, it's less transactional, more experiential. Oh yeah, dude, I've been down that road. I mean, not deep down that road, for like even years. So interested in that. Basically creating a tech-oriented hostel/hotel product. You know, like
backpack trip.
Oh, okay.
At a backpack dashboard with smart dollars and especially it was like a very easy way to go environment, like a safe weapon for people. So Travis right now we're learning
what we're looking at is trying to improve their
Yeah, like community too. Like a community space. Think of like a commune, like needs like hotel or whatever, because people in my just offhand, I haven't done any surveys or anything, but my guess is that people don't need the biggest room or suite in the world. They just want something simple, clean, modern looking, and then the rest of the time they want to spend, in a WeWork type of a place where they're around other entrepreneurs. There's like a common break room. Hell, maybe there's even a common food at night. You know what I mean? What is that?
It's a smaller one. Essentially like a startup.
But like some kind of concept like that, like you work in domain,
Everything was going fine for a while.
Every hospital
last year, like the way that our sports went on, I think the market just didn't really have anymore.
so like very like easy services, things like minimalist. I'm a minimalist. Yes, I bought a house. The girl's like, oh, you're gonna put pictures there? I was like, nothing to me.
I grew up with a lot of clutter because my parents are like clutter people. And as soon as like I got my own place, I ventured out. Like my sister came in one day, she's like, "This is so sterile. Like I feel like I'm at a hospital." Because I refused to put anything on the walls. I had bought furniture part of the set, and I didn't even unbox like my half of it because I just love blank space.
Yeah, I mean, I was involved in that space.
I feel like you have like a clearer head.
I don't want to like throw myself all in on something.